A table of time in different cosmoses. Time, according to the previous table, undoubtedly goes beyond 4 dimensions. What is interesting to examine, however, is whether this can be applied to the Minkowski formula, the square root of -1 time coordinate, denoting time as the 4th world coordinate. The world of Minkowski corresponds precisely with each of the cosmoses separately. Beginning with the world of electrons, and taking t, or the time coordinate, as the duration of the life of an electron, we see where this coincides with one of the propositions laid out in New Model of the Universe, namely that time is life. The result should show the distance, in kilometers, that light travels during the life of an electron. In the next cosmos, this should be the distance that light travels during the life of a molecule, in the next, during the life of a particle, or of a small cell, and then again during the life of a large cell, during the life of a human being, and so on. The results for all cosmoses should be obtained in linear measurement, that is, they should be expressed in fractions of a kilometer, or in kilometers. The multiplication of a number of kilometers by the square root of -1 ought to show that here we are not dealing with linear measurements, and that the figure obtained is a measure of time. The introduction of the square root of -1 into the formula, while it does not change the formula quantitatively, shows that the whole formula relates to another dimension. In this manner, with relation to the cosmos of electrons, the Minkowski formula takes the following form. That is, the square root of -1, which has to be multiplied by the product of 300,000, that is c, or the speed of light, which equals to 300,000 kilometers per second, and 1/300 millionth second, which is the duration of life for an electron. Multiplying 300,000 by 1/300 million will give 1/1000th kilometer, which is 1 meter. 1 meter therefore shows the distance that light traverses during the life of an electron, which is traveling at the speed of 300,000 kilometers per second. The square root of -1, which makes 1 meter, an imaginary quantity, shows that the linear measurement of a meter is in this case a measurement of time, of the 4th coordinate. Passing to the world of the molecule, the Minkowski formula takes the following form. 1/10,000th part of a second, according to this table, is the duration of the life of a molecule. Multiplying 300,000 kilometers by 1/10,000th of a second will give 30 kilometers. Time, in the world of molecules, is obtained in the formula, the square root of -1, multiplied by 30. Therefore 30 kilometers represents the distance that light travels during the life of a molecule, or in 1/10,000th of a second. Further, in the world of small particles, the Minkowski formula takes the following form. That is, 900,000 kilometers, multiplied by the square root of -1. When 900,000 kilometers represents the distance that light travels during the life of a small cell, namely in 3 seconds. Continuing these calculations for the further cosmoses, we can obtain for cells an 11-figure number, showing the distance that light travels in 24 hours. For the microcosmos, a 16-figure number, showing the distance in kilometers that light travels in 80 years. For the tritocosmos, a 20-figure number. For the mesocosmos, a 25-figure number. For the deuterocosmos, a 29-figure number. For the macrocosmos, a 34-figure number. For the iocosmos, a 38-figure number. For the protocosmos, a 42-figure number, or the square root of -1, times 9 to the power of 1041, which in other words means that during the life of the protocosmos, a ray of light travels 900 duodecillion kilometers. The application of the formula to the table of time shows that the 4th coordinate can be established only for one cosmos at a time, which then appears as the 4-dimensional world of Minkowski. 2, 3 or more cosmoses cannot be considered as a 4-dimensional world, as they require for their description 5 or 6 coordinates. At the same time, Minkowski's formula shows for all cosmoses the relation of the 4th coordinate of one cosmos to the 4th coordinate of another. This relation is equal to 30,000, that is, the relation between the 4 chief periods of each cosmos, and between one period of one cosmos and the corresponding, or similarly named period of another cosmos. According to scientific conclusion, a ray of light travels in a curve, and after going around the universe, returns to its source in approximately 1 billion light-years. 1 billion light-years represents in this case the circumference of the universe, although the opinions of various investigators differ widely, and the figures relating to the circumference of the universe can in no way be considered as strictly established. Even if all the considerations leading up to them, as to the density of matter in the universe, are to be accepted. In any event, if we take the average figure indicated, relative to the supposed circumference of the universe, then by dividing 9 to the power of 1028 by 108, we obtain a 20-figure number, that will show how many times a ray of light will go around the universe during the life of the protocosmos. The next area of interest arises in the relationship between the time of different cosmoses and the centers of the human body. The enormous differences in the speed of the different centers has been spoken of previously, and reasoning in this manner, with regard to the inner work of an organism, leads to the hypothesis that this speed may belong to the instinctive center. With this as a basis and proceeding from the thinking center, taking as a unit of its work, for example, the time necessary for one full apperception, that is, for the reception of an outside impression, the classification and definition of this impression, and for the responding reaction, if the centers then actually stand one to the other, in the relation of cosmoses, then in exactly the same amount of time, through the instinctive center, there could pass 30,000 apperceptions. Through the higher emotional, and in the sex centers 30,000 squared apperceptions, and through the higher thinking center 30,000 cubed apperceptions. At the same time, according to the law of the correlation of cosmoses, the instinctive center, in relation to the head or thinking center, should embrace two cosmoses, that is the second microcosmos, and the tritocosmos. Furthermore, the higher emotional, and the sex centers, taken separately, should embrace the third microcosmos, and the mesocosmos. Finally, the higher thinking, intellectual center, should embrace the fourth microcosmos, and the deuterocosmos. However, the latter refers to higher development, to that development of a human being that cannot be obtained accidentally, or in a natural way. In our normal state, an enormous advantage, in the sense of speed, over all the other centers should be possessed by the sex center, working 30,000 times faster than the instinctive, or the moving, and 30,000 squared, times faster than the intellectual center. In the relation of centers to cosmoses, many possibilities of study open up. The table illustrates, and further coincides with some of the ideas, and even figures, of cosmic calculations of time, if they can be so expressed, existing with the Gnostics, and deep within the sacred teachings of India. A day of light is 1,000 years of the world, and 36 myriads of years, and a half myriad of years of the world, 365,000, are a single year of light. See Pistis Sophia, page 203 of the English translation. Here the figures do not coincide, but in some areas of Indian mythology, the correspondence is unquestionable. They speak of the breath of Brahma, days and nights of Brahma, and an age of Brahma. If we take the figures given for the years in Indian writings, then the Mahamanvantara, that is the age of Brahma, or 311 trillion, and 40 billion years, a 15-figure number almost coincides with the period of the existence of the sun, which is a 16-figure number. The day and night of Brahma, 8 billion, 640 million, a 10-figure number, almost coincides with the day and night of the sun, which is an 11-figure number. If we take Indian ideas of cosmic time, without relation to figures, then other interesting correspondences appear. Thus, if we take Brahma as the protocosmos, then the expression Brahma breathes in and breathes out the universe, this would coincide with the table given, because the breath of Brahma, or the protocosmos, which is a 20-figure number, coincides with the life of the mesocosmos, namely our visible universe, or the starry world.